Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Hey, this is Joseph Dupont. I want to welcome you guys back to the Tenacious Entrepreneur Podcast. Join us today. We've got Josh Wilson. Josh is a serial entrepreneur and somebody that I actually met at an event where he was speaking. And I thought, man, this guy would be great to be on our podcast because he has so much going on in his life that other entrepreneurs could identify with that have been going on with them. So I just wanted to thank you, Josh, for coming out and spending time with us on the show.
Absolutely, Joe. Yeah, this is great. This is
great. Looking forward to getting to know you a little more and seeing what going on in your life, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you at now? Like, what are you doing in business? What's going on?
Yeah, so recovering real estate addict is what I like to say. I was in real estate for 15, 18 years and built up a large portfolio doing the Burr method, and then slowly divested myself out of that and sold pretty much all my real estate over the past 3 years. And then started to get in the itch in the M&A world, mergers and acquisitions.
So when you had real estate, you had $500 worth of real estate, or
no? We built it up to a $25 million portfolio. So it wasn't chump change, but
pretty sizable real estate portfolio.
It was, and sold that off about maybe 3-4 years ago. And now I've been completely into mergers and acquisitions, and so we buy and sell companies all around the country.
Wow. Okay. So mergers and acquisitions. How did that transition happen? Like what?
So it was during COVID. I was sitting in my hot tub, and the
hot tub time machine. You mean?
Yeah, man. Well, you had nothing to do during COVID, right?
Yeah.
So I was sitting outside in my hot tub, like kind of wondering. Like honestly, I was all in real estate, so I was wondering, oh my goodness, like all of a sudden, what if no tenants? Like what if my tenants
nobody
don't pay
pays
rent?
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I didn't have any other income, so. That's what the light bulb clicked, and it was like, okay, we need to diversify a little bit. So I went on to bizbuysell.com. I met a guy online through social media, and he was doing mergers and acquisitions at the time. And I was, he put this post out there. He said, if you could take $150,000 instead of buying a piece of real estate and put it as a down payment on a business, like 10% on a business, I could show you how you can make $150,000 to $200,000 back a year in cash flow. Would that interest you? And I was like, hell yeah, sign me up. That could replace my income, at the time, because my real estate, believe it or not, had a $25 million portfolio, but I was only drawing like a couple 6 figures a year. It wasn't a whole lot of money to me at the time, and I had a lot of expensive hobbies. So
yeah, I can tell you, like in real estate, like I tell people, it's like the slow death.
It is, man.
It's like you're betting on it's like going in a casino and being like, I'm going to bet that somebody's going to win in a year and a half, maybe 30.
Well, it is if you do rental properties, right? So a lot of people go invest in rental properties. It's great for a balance sheet. It's great for your net worth. It's great for long-term wealth. But if you were looking to like actually live off of that income like today, it's not possible. One hot water heater breaks, one air conditioning goes out, you're done. Your whole month's done, and maybe 2 or 3 months you're done. So for me, I didn't want to live that way anymore, and I wanted to have like steady, consistent, robust cash flow. And so I found business acquisitions, and now we have 7 companies now in 4 states, over 170 employees. We are rocking and rolling. So
I know my dad. He just passed away about like 2 years ago. I think this is his 3rd year, just going on the 3rd year. And whenever he passed away, my dad was big into real estate. Mm-hmm. And he, sold and bought and sold, and whenever he passed away, I mean, I didn't keep track of it because my dad was 80.
Yeah.
And so my mom and dad had sort of handled it, and all the properties were out of town. They were like in other like cities, like the metropolis cities, like Dry Prong, Louisiana, and Winfield and Colfax. I mean, it was like all out in that part of the world. And so I never even saw the houses. So he had 13 houses, and whenever he passed, and of course everything went on to my mom, and I'm the executor of the will, and I'm taking care of of my mom and making sure she's okay and everything. And so I went back to look at all the houses. to figure out, let's do triage, let's figure out where we're at. Because he didn't have renters in any of them.
Right.
They were all just like sitting vacant. And so I went back and started going to houses. Like the tree had fallen in it 10 years ago.
So you had no idea that.
I mean, dude, like the roof was caved in on another one, and like all of these were like in different states of disrepair. And I was thinking, man, it's so sad. Like he built all of his life, to build up this for retirement for that. Hey, one day I'm going to be able to have this to sell it off,
to live off of it.
Yeah, but the end just never came. Like he was always just moving the ball forward. So I respect to you, man, for taking the decision.
Well, you know what? Also, too, that life that I lived for that long, it was not a healthy life.
Right.
I was running and gunning, probably running myself into the ground. I was when I made the switch from real estate to M&A, I was 258 pounds. I was heavy. And I was unhealthy. I was eating McDonald's like it was going out of style. And then when I made that switch into M&A, and I know it's going to sound cliche, but I was able to take a step back, meaning like I was able to focus on my health more because I had more income. I wasn't as stressed every month. I wake up in the morning, I was excited to go to work because I wasn't trying to figure out, oh my God, I hope we don't have a hot water heater break today because if not, I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. I was able to start focusing on my health. So I started doing cold plunging. I started doing saunas every day. I started working out. I started eating better. I got a nutritionist. Like did all these things, and I lost a crap ton of weight. And now I'm healthier. I still have a lot of work I want to do, but I mean I'm down to like 190 now. So I've almost lost 70 pounds. So it had some positive effects from making that switch because it was just a very hectic and crazy and stressful lifestyle. And what I found is that real estate and rental properties, there's a guy by the name of Chris Rood. He's a Louisiana guy. Yeah. And he talks about this all the time about, medium, fast, and slow money. And, when he said that one time, I was like, man, it is so true. Rental properties is your slow money game. Yeah. You cannot rely on that to live today. So you got to go invest in a business.
And in the early 2000s, that's what we were all preached on.
Exactly.
We were raised on like, hey, the ultimate dream of an entrepreneur is to own $100 million in assets of properties and live in this, and then 2009 hits and everybody's like,
correct.
Holy
I mean,
crud.
look, I'm going through a divorce and, I've been renting up until about December. So I just bought a house and I'm renovating it finally. But I've been renting that whole time for the past year. And it's been great. I love being a renter because things break and it's not my problem. And so recently got engaged, and so
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Wanted to go move into get a house and do that whole thing, and man, I'm like, why did I do this? I'm spending all this money on renovating this house, and I'm like thinking to myself, man, I'm like, here I go again. Hot water heater's gonna break, AC is gonna go out, roof's gonna leak. And I'd rather rent sometimes, because there's a lot of benefits. And a lot of people look down on it. They're like, oh, man, renting is it's crap. You don't want to rent. You're not gaining any equity. But at the same time, you're able to take the amount of money you would put down or put into that house, go invest that money, get 15 and 20% return on your money. Or for me, like with M&A, with our companies, we're getting 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60% returns on our money. And, you can't get that, anywhere else. Yeah. So,
I just read the Elon Musk book, and I don't know if you read it. It's about like that thick.
Yeah, no, I have not.
I thank God for Audible because I listened to 100 chapters of Elon Musk. But one of the things that they talk about was whenever he went to the divesting of everything. Mm-hmm. At one point he went to where he didn't own a house.
Right.
He was couch surfing.
Yeah, he depleted all of his assets.
All of his assets. And like, I don't own anything. Like I'm just
just a nomad.
Just a nomad. But I find that sort of freeing, a little bit.
I can imagine that it's probably very freeing.
Not that we model our life after Elon, because Lord knows. He's got 11 wives and probably different kids and all that.
Look, I have debt. I have debt, but it's all in my companies. So we have revenue that's coming in every single month. We have debt on our real estate. But
take me back to that first business acquisition. Like, I know, like at some point you realize, okay, this is what I want to do. But at some point you were like, I don't know, you put my toes.
Well, let me give you a story of why I went into that acquisition. And so I bought a non-emergency medical transportation company. So you're probably wondering, how in the hell did you buy a non-emergency? Like why? Like why that? So back in 2008, when the real estate crash happened, I didn't have any money. So I was a property manager at the time, building my own company, and I didn't have any extra money. So what I did was I worked as a non-emergency medical transportation driver. Every dollar that I got from that company went into a separate checking account, and I used that for my first down payment to acquire my first rental property. So I saved up enough money. I think it took me about a year to get there. Saved up enough money, got enough, went to a bank that would lend me money at the time. And I remember the banker at the time, he's still a banker until this day, a guy named John, and he gave me horrible terms. But he told me, you got to cut your teeth, like you're so green. And he's like, we're going to give you terms that benefit the bank to make sure that if you screw up, the bank's going to be in a good position. So gave me horrible terms. I bought the deal, and I did very well with the deal. I refinanced it out a couple years later after rates came down and whatnot, and markets started coming back up.
Right.
Pulled my money out, got my money back, and then started doing it again. Took that money and went and bought another property. Well, then I realized about raising capital and all that good stuff, and that's how I grew my company grew the real estate portfolio into a $25 million portfolio, is because I learned about OPM, which is other people's money, and built that up. Well, carry into now, when I bought my first company in Orlando, I used OPM again. I used other people's money. So I found this deal in Orlando, non-emergency medical transportation company. I got an investor that was interested in partnering with me on the debt side, so I didn't sell any equity. I borrowed the money for the down payment. I negotiated seller finance with the owner. He wanted out of the deal. I bought it for $350,000. He wanted out of the deal. He was driving. He was miserable. I didn't need the money at the time. I just wanted to go and buy my first deal and build it up, and then eventually I'll take a paycheck, hopefully in year 2 or 3. So first year, we didn't really make any money. Second year,
so I want to interrupt you for a second, because what I'm saying is like, okay, that's super interesting, but I'm trying to wrap my brain around, where was the business?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay, so you lived in New Orleans at the time?
Yes. Yep.
So you lived in New Orleans and you found this deal on Biz Buy Sell, I guess, and you said, I'm going to buy it, and then you just moved to Orlando for
I didn't move to Orlando at all.
So I'm trying to figure out,
sure.
I had 125 employees at one time, and
so the company,
it's like herding cats.
The company had a manager at the time, right? This company had a manager at the time, and we used him. We kept him on, and he was making a large salary enough to where it was kind of draining the income to where it didn't make a lot of sense. But I knew that I can grow the company because it's what I'm good at. So I kept him on. We grew the company. We were doing when I bought the company, I think we were doing $60,000 a month in sales. This day now, I think our highest month we did was 275, just recently, this past year. And
I guess what I'm looking at is the people value, like like in other words, like how it's got to be hard. Like I buy businesses myself, and I can tell you, like
you got to have a number one. You have to have a number one in every location. And so we have a number one in every location. That's our GM.
So you had somebody but I'm saying, like, did you fly down and go meet with that guy number one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to walk through. Like,
no, I didn't just buy it and say, good luck, see you.
It wasn't just like internet sell.
No. I've been down there, and I stayed in a hotel room for a couple of weeks, and learned the business and understand the inside
Understood
and out.
all of the inside and outs
of it. All the employees,
like,
hey, how are we doing payroll, blah, blah, blah. Then hired my first VA in accounting and got that all outsourced. And
did you change anything, or did you just jump in and say,
oh, yeah, we changed a lot. So when I went in there first, they were dispatching via text message. So like, if you want to get a trip, it was like they would text you and send it to the driver, and the driver would then go drive and say, okay, trip completed. Way archaic way of doing it.
Yeah.
So I went in there and put software in place.
So let me guess, this was something starting in the 80s?
Oh, yeah. It was very,
80s or 90s. Like this was a guy that was
very archaic.
Websites suck.
Yes. Very archaic. And so we went, and then we put a software in place called Route Genie. And that's been a godsend. It's been great. It's like Uber for NEMT. And you could see all where the drivers are. We could see all the routes. We can see how much revenue we made for the day. We can see the revenue coming forward, how many trips. I mean, it's very intricate. So like, I was in New Orleans and I could see the daily activities actively live any given second of what's going on with the company.
So I think that's probably like a key takeaway for that is that technology, introducing
absolutely,
technology into it to where you can monitor quicker and better.
Absolutely.
I know it sounds archaic, but I just put in my first camera in one of my businesses.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, I don't want to like be that guy.
We have them in every vehicle.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't want to be that guy like monitoring everybody. Hey, pick up that wrench. What are you doing on break?
You want to be that guy until they get into a wreck.
Right. And, well, I'm just talking about in general, like in business. Like I put one at one of our businesses, and it's so freeing as an entrepreneur because honestly, when I see them, show up to the job on time, and I'm like, hey,
and you didn't have to go open the door,
I didn't have to go open the door, and I know, hey, that guy showed up. He actually managed to open up on his own, and so it actually gives me better appreciation. I thought it was going to give me more like, like I'm gonna have my thumb on them and be like, you're fired.
It's crazy you say that, Joey, because I was on a consultation call yesterday, and the girl was telling me very similar, to that of like, how do you manage like your companies all around the country? Like you live in Louisiana. How do you manage stuff in Boston, Chicago? Like, how does that work?
And just the personalities, like they just think different.
Correct. And for me, I think it's like, I always say this, experience builds confidence. So the more you do, the more experience you get, the more confident you're going to be in wanting to do it and be able to do it and execute. And so like, once I did that one in Orlando, I kind of went in with like no fear, because I was like, oh, I mean, there's really no risk. It's $350,000. If this guy tanks it, oh well, then I mean, it is what it is. Like I'm gonna let it be what it is.
It's like going to the casino with $100 in your pocket, and it's like, yeah.
And at the time, I just didn't have any fear. Like I was like, I can do this. Like worst case scenario, I got to go live in Orlando for a couple months. Like no big deal.
Yeah.
And so that really catapulted me. Just basically going in with like no blinders on and just doing it, like getting it done. Most people, I feel like they go in and they have this fear-based mindset where it absolutely just crushes them, to where they don't want to take any action at all. And I think for me, I'm so happy that I did not even I didn't go in with blinders on. I just went in, head first and did it.
So you went in day one, and we're not gonna, I don't have to have the guy's name, but it's like you went day one, and let's say his name is John. That's the leader of the free world over there. Like, hey, John, we've got 17 employees, and this is how we would do it. I think we should change things. Like you came in and met with them for a little while, and
we did. We have what's called takeover meetings. We had a takeover meeting, and went there, met all the employees, had all the vans inspected, and then slowly started implementing the new processes and procedures that I'm good at. And slowly just started changing the dynamics of the company.
I'm learning. The reason why I'm asking all these questions, I'm actually buying a company right now that has mobile billboards. So I'm learning.
Huge thing is don't make too much change too fast, right?
Okay.
Because what that does is the employees get freaked out, they get scared, they're worried about job security. So you go in there and you start making small tweaks, and then they buy in because they're like, oh wow, he did that. That works. It making my job easier.
He's not an idiot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you do that and you start creating small wins, and then eventually, we go in there and we start meeting with each individual employees, and we start figuring out, okay, where's everybody at compensation wise? Do we need to give anybody raises? Do we need to promote anybody? Where do we need leadership at? Where do we need management?
Do you give them a path to raises and show them have a meeting with them one-on-one?
Correct. We don't just give anybody a raise just because they've been an employee there. It was more of how can we find more leaders to promote from within, and then give them additional compensation and additional responsibilities so that they can then create more leaders within the company. And so that's what we did. So now we have a full management team, got a GM, got an assistant manager, dispatch manager. I mean, there's multiple levels now in the company, but that took time. So once we implemented the systems and the processes that created more efficiency, took a little bit of the workload off of our GM, then I was like, go do sales. Let's go hunt down the sales, because
sales cures all.
Yeah, our operations were great now. Now we could take on so much more business because our operations were set. So now the operations are set. He went out and got more contracts, and boom, we blew up.
So I think that's where a key that I see happen in entrepreneurs is I know if you think about your body as an organism, if you have something in your body like a cell that multiplies. If it could be cancerous.
Yep.
And cancerous cells multiplying is not really a great thing.
Right.
So you have to get treatment, and and the same thing in a business. If your body's out of order, that's what a cancerous cell is. It's out of order.
Yeah.
Then and you ask to multiply it could kill you.
Yeah.
And so if you go in and first thing you do is you get order.
Yep.
Right.
Establish order.
Establish order. This is what order looks like.
Chain of command.
Yeah. This is what order looks like. Here's a chain of command.
Yep.
Here's a monthly meeting. Here's a weekly meeting.
Yep.
Establishing order
We have that now, and look, I live and breathe by that, and so we have a full C-suite now. So we have a COO, CFO, the whole 9 yards, and they run our weekly leadership calls every week for all of our GMs across the country. Game changer on those calls because they talk about different topics. Some weeks it's sales, some weeks it's like leadership, operations, and every week it changes. And so they bring up different quotes and motivate. They're trying to motivate each other, and like sometimes they're running the roadblocks at one company, and the other GM's like, oh, well, we've actually encountered that over here, and this is what we did.
Right.
So it's a kind of our own little mastermind every week, and then we do individual leadership calls with each GM. So we are really, really focused on making sure we're
you're
growing.
Investing in the team.
100%.
Yeah. So
I used to not. I look. You asked the old Josh 15 years ago about having a big team, employees,
right.
all that night. I would have looked dead in the face and said, I can do it all myself.
I got this.
Yeah. Now,
the
new Josh is like, I don't want to do any of that shit. Like, I'm not interested, So,
that was a guy that actually I listened to was a pastor, and it was over a huge church, and it was Rick Bezet. Rick Hornsby. Rick Hornsby. Actually, Buck Hornsby is coming in as his cousin.
Okay.
I think as a nephew, but he said if you want to get something done, you want to do it right, delegate it. And it was such a foreign concept to me. And he talked about it. He actually pulled a scripture and he said, you can't put new wine into old wineskins.
Ooh.
It breaks the wineskins and destroys the thing that it actually was there for. Yep. And so he said, you're gonna have to change.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to change if you want to survive. You're gonna have to adapt and you're gonna have to change. Yep. And I think having that conversation with the employees is like, look, we're gonna bring change. But it's
good change.
Yeah. But you're going to find that some of those wineskins are going to break.
They do, and we have some. Yeah. And that's the great thing of. Oh man, if you could be there for these takeovers, that is the great thing that happens. Is that, and it's not great for them, but it's great for the company as an organization. Is that when we go in, we take over, we implement change. Immediately, the dead weight immediately shows itself.
Yeah.
So we know who is not going to be on board.
Just like the cream rises to the top, the scum rises to the top.
100%, and they always walk themselves out.
Yeah.
It happens every single time.
Like this. I'm gonna show you
exactly. Yeah, they try to fight it, and they try to fight the change, and then usually those people don't last, and that's okay. It's just not for us. That's why I believe in capitalism. There's so many other companies. Go pick one to work at. That's why there's a Walgreens and a CVS. You don't like the way Walgreens is? Go work for CVS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and so I think that's a key. Like in doing this takeover and taking the business over and actually running it. I would think that you probably actually physically assume CEO status for at least
a
little bit
I do.
of time, because they have to understand.
Yeah,
I'm in charge.
Yeah, now I'm
100% in charge. Mark is all in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm labeled CEO now, but I don't really. I'm not in operations anymore. Honestly, I meet the employees a couple times a year, and the team members and our COO, Ara Agato, she's phenomenal, and she leads all of our teams. She leads all the GMs, and the GMs lead all of our individual team members at the local level. And again, it goes back to that chain of command, right? I can't be in Orlando, Florida, trying to lead a team of guys driving every single day and gals driving every day in vans transporting patients. It would actually hurt the team because we're not growing. We're not able to grow and take on more investors, buy more companies.
I remember the first time I went into actually bringing in C-level, you're talking about a C-suite, and creating like this C-level of leadership in my business. I had 125 employees, and I was pulling my hair out.
Yeah.
But I felt like, so there's a story in the Bible about Moses' father-in-law came to him and said, look, dude, you can't lead and judge and jury over all these people. You need to create a system. And it's actually the system that we have today in the Senate and the Congress, and all, it was created out of that. The concept was that you have to create a system of leadership so that they can judge on these other things. And
well, I want to tell you this, Joe. It hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows, because I think people listen to this podcast and like, man, like this guy's got it figured out. Like he knows what he's doing. It wasn't always like that.
Did you ever have to fire one of the number ones that?
Just recently.
Okay.
We just recently went through that in December, right before Christmas. That was tough. That was probably one of my toughest moments.
Merry Christmas.
That was it was like early on December. That was tough. Really great guy, but just it had some internal things that just didn't work out for us, and we had to make a change. And so we did, and we're doing well now. But I want to tell you a really cool story before we got a break here. But so this is where it goes in. It's not always sunshine or rainbows. So I bought my first company that did well. Now that company does 7 figures a year in cash flow and making tremendous amount of money, and we're doing phenomenal, great team, et cetera. Then I went to go buy my second company because I'm like, man, I know what I'm doing, And so I went and bought my second company in Miami, Florida. Went there, looking great. This was going to be a game changer for me because it was a $1 million plus year in cash flow. So I was going to be able to create millions of dollars a year now in cash flow.
Right.
Be able to do all kinds of things that I want to do, travel the whole world, live remotely, do whatever I want. Had a family at the time, doing great. Bought that company, closed on it. Bought it for $1.9 million, the biggest acquisition for me at the time to date. Bought it for $1.9 million, gave the guy $1 million down, financed $900,000. When I bought that company, we were supposed to be doing $10,000 a day in sales. The first day I bought it, our first day of sales was $500. Next day,
wow,
$280. Next day, $490. Something is wrong.
Catastrophically.
Something is really wrong. You got to remember, this is a $3 million a year company. Okay, that's supposed to be producing $3 million a year of revenue. And we have $3 million a year revenue expenses. So we were running expenses of about $190,000, $200,000 a month. And we were only doing $500 a day.
Wow.
Talk about, and this is right before Christmas. I bought it a couple days before Christmas. This was a couple years ago.
I was going to say a couple years ago.
Years ago. And I remember sitting at Christmas just distraught. Like, my kids are opening gifts. They're all excited. I'm just sulking. I'm like, what did I do? How did I get here? And so I finally picked myself up, after Christmas, and I said, okay, I got to go to work. So I called my attorneys first. I said, something's wrong. We got to investigate this. You guys go handle that part. I'm going to go do what I do best.
Right.
And so I went into killer mode, like operational mode, and saying, okay, I got to fix this. So I went in and I basically had to dismantle all the offices. I had to close everything down. Like, the GM at the time said, you're let go, you're fired. I fired everyone. I had to reduce expenses almost down to zero. Had to get out of all my leases, and just so I could stop the bleeding. Because you imagine, right? You're spending $200,000 a month in expenses. I had to immediately cut that to zero when you're not making enough money. So I cut it down. We were doing weight loss stuff too at the time. And so thank God we had for that, because that was like a nice reoccurring revenue stream that was coming in, but it didn't require any hard cost of goods other than the actual product. So that kind of saved me a little bit. I was able to get maybe $5,000, $10,000 a month of revenue just to pay the bills or the lights and stuff at the time.
Yeah.
So then a guy approached me and said, hey, look, I got this company.
Okay, I need to pause for a second. Why did it stop bringing in money?
There was some fraud going on. So, and I'm gonna get to that later.
Okay.
So there's some fraud going on, and so we ended up settling out of court, and I lost $1 million. Believe it or not.
Okay.
So I lost $1 million, settled out of court for pennies, but I just couldn't do the bleeding anymore. I was losing. My hair was turning gray. I mean, I was losing sleep at night. I couldn't sleep at night. It was probably the worst 6 months of my life. And I say worst 6 months of my life. It was tough. It was very tough.
Yeah.
Tough on my relationship, tough with my kids. It was tough all around.
Yeah.
But I got through it, and this is how I did it. So this is kind of brings you back to a little bit of a faith-based story here.
Yeah.
I was sitting in my office one day. I got a phone call. Hey man, I got this company. I know you're going through some shit right now. I know you're probably not looking to buy a company, but I really want you to take a look at this company. Okay, I look at it. I was like, I've actually saw this company already before. It was 2 years ago. I was like, I really wasn't interested. And now, at this time, I needed money. I was bleeding $50,000, $60,000 a month.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need income. This company was making at the time $50,000, $60,000 a month. I'm like, this could literally stop my bleeding for me if I was able to turn this around. So I went through the due diligence. I went through the company. I poured through the documents and spent hours and hours because I was like, I need a win. So I said, all right. This guy at the same time, he was struggling too. He was struggling to grow the company.
Did you start doing forensic audits after this point?
No.
Did you say, okay,
now we do.
Okay.
But when I bought this one, I didn't.
Okay.
You think I'd learned my lesson, right?
That's what I'm saying. You bought the first one, you didn't do a forensic audit.
No, and this one I didn't because I trusted the guy that I was buying it from.
All right.
So I was
Fair
like,
enough. Yeah.
I know him very well. I know he's not going to screw me. I'm gonna have to take a leap of faith, because at this time I was bleeding out essentially. Like I was dying a slow death.
If you're gonna die, you might as well die.
Exactly. I was like, I might as well just go out swinging.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I just sold some real estate, had a couple $100,000 in the bank, just sold some real estate, and I'm like, you know what? I got to take a swing. The guy only wanted $150,000. I had to assume his $1 million in an SBA loan. Okay, so imagine, right? My wife at the time is like, I just lost $1 million, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go give this guy 150 and
assume his $1 million
and go assume it's $1 million SBA loan, and we're gonna go buy another company and try again. She's like, oh my God, okay, go ahead, you do what you got to do. And I was like, that's what I did. So I bought the company, paid him $150,000. And thank God, because that was the best deal I've ever done to date. And I think it was all because it was very serendipitous, and I think God works in mysterious ways. And this is why I know. I went and met the guy in Boston when we were changing over the bank accounts from his name to my name. First time I've ever met him. I only talked to him over the phone. I walk into the Bank of America in Boston, Quincy, Massachusetts. I walk in there. I take my hand and go shake his hand. I'm like, hey, man, nice to meet you. I'm Josh Wilson. He's like, hey, man, how are you? My name's John. He goes, just want to let you know you're an angel. I was like, what do you mean I'm an angel? He goes, you saved me from losing my house. And I was like, really? I said, well, you're an angel. I was like, you saved me from losing my house.
Yeah.
So
it was like,
we both came at the same time.
Yeah.
We both needed each other.
Yeah,
that time.
What I found, man, is that because I own 7 different businesses right now, and I've founded a lot of them, but I've bought some. And what I found is
startups are for suckers, man.
Yeah, they are. I'm with you, dude. The hardest thing, man, is to raise a toddler. It's a lot easier to just adopt a teenager.
I think I'd rather have kids again than start another company.
Yeah, it's like what I was gonna say. It's like adopting a teenager or a 20-year-old starting somebody else's company versus raising a toddler.
Yep.
But that's the thing I found, man. Was like there's a lot of just disillusioned business owners that have they've grinded out through the hard times, and they've tried to make it through, and they're like it's almost like talking to a guy that's like beaten down in marriage, or a woman that's been abused, and she's just like she's just like so
got the battle
down.
wounds.
She got the battle wounds. And so like talking about like rejuvenating your business is like, dude, I can't even think about, like, I don't even want to think about it. Like, I don't even, so I get that. Like, and
it's not always that,
they don't have the new ideas. They don't have the new energy that you bring to the table whenever you come into a business. It's like a relationship.
I mean, look, I love what I do. So like, I love M&A. I love acquiring companies. I love meeting new people. And I think the most, somebody was asking me the other day, what do you like to do? And I was like, I really enjoy motivating people. Like, that's what I love. When I see my team, like when I hop on sometimes these leadership calls, and my COO, she asks me to talk sometimes to kind of inspire the team a little bit. I share stories with them, and like just and I get real with them, and I figure out where they are, and I uplift. I like to uplift people. I like to bring positivity. That like, hey, look, you only got one shot on the merry-go-round. Like, it's going to go around, and then in one day it's going to stop going around. So you might as well enjoy it while you're going around, And so, and that was a hard lesson for me to swallow. And I didn't really learn that until a couple of years ago, when I was like, man, life is like flying by, and I need to wake up and enjoy it, or I'm gonna go to the grave and not even remember what happened,
Right.
And so, I've really been focusing lately on just embracing the moment and doing what I love to do, and but also at the same time, you need money to do that. You do. I mean, money in my eyes, it does buy happiness, or it gives you freedom. It gives you options.
Yeah, I feel like that. Like the thing that people misunderstand is that like it gives you freedom.
Yep.
If you're not a happy person,
freedom
can be a problem.
Yes.
Because then you have to deal with the demons that are in you.
I mean, I'm less stressed, and
alcoholism and everything else comes up.
But you know what? Also, too, here's the other thing, right? So we're doing well with our companies.
Right.
We're getting ready to come out a couple weeks. We had this school in New Orleans. We just bought them, and I would never be able to do this before when I was broke.
Right.
We just bought them all brand new uniforms for their soccer team.
Right.
I got them new soccer goals. We got them all brand new uniforms. These are things I would never be able to do. And so I'm getting, being able to do that. I can't wait to see the looks on those kids' faces when we bring them all new goals and they get these brand new uniforms. They were playing in their regular clothes.
Yeah.
It's just, those are the things that I enjoy doing, and so.
I remember whenever I had there was a time where I made a large donation to start churches like overseas and missionaries and stuff like that. And it was satisfying, like you're saying. Like I felt like the satisfaction. But the next year, they came back.
Yeah.
And they wanted another $1 million or whatever it was. We gave it like, hey, we need another. And I was a little bit frustrated. Because I looked at it as like a business owner.
Yeah.
Like if I give you $1 million, I expect you to self-perpetuate. Like I don't expect to give it another $1 million in the next year, right?
Yeah.
Like any business that you would do that, you're like, dude, what do you mean you want another $1 million?
Sure. Yeah.
And I remember I went to God about it, and I was like complaining, like, God, I don't think this is a good idea. Like I'm not giving them any more money. Like this isn't like productive.
Right.
And he said, you can't be angry at cattle for eating. They're cattle. You're a farmer. It's your job to move to the next field and get them in the other field, and so what it was like a series of things that like worked with me, like broke me down, and let me start understanding. Like again, like I had like a moment. I don't have to. I mean, I feel like 2 or 3 times in my life that I probably had these, but like it was. I had a dream that night, and I remember I'd just gone through like a big loss of business, and I'd catastrophically failed and all this horrible stuff. And I was arguing with God about when I went to bed about like, I'm giving this money to these people, and then here I am suffering. And I remember like he showed me in the dream there was this big watering trough in the middle of the desert, and there was missionary. There was a like a bucket on the side of the watering trough, and I ran and grabbed the bucket that had water in it, and I dumped it in the watering trough. And missionaries came from all over, and they started drinking up the water. But it was like a 40-foot long watering trough with a bucket of water. It was that much in the bottom of it. And they were doing this. And I remember one of them looked up at me like, why? Like, why don't you have any more water in here? And I had the Lord was in the dream, was like beside me. And I was like, okay, God, why? Like, why do they look more water? I don't have any more water. I poured all my water out. And he took me back, and he said, come sit back with me and see from my perspective. There was, I didn't see it, but there was a spigot hanging over the trough. And there was a well over here that was out of my eyesight. The bucket was made to prime the well, to prime the pump. And he said, if you would have primed the pump, you would have had water for them forever. They would have never come to you again. But instead, you poured the bucket in because they saw you do it. You got the glory.
Right.
He said, if you do it the way I want to do it, they won't name orphanages after you. They won't name schools after you. They won't say how great you are. They don't even know your name. Prime the pump to a provision for them. And that's when I sort of changed directions on my giving. I started giving to internationally to entrepreneurs. And I'd say, look, I'm looking for the guy that has a well, a provision for this country. Like I don't mind putting up $1 million. But I'm going to put up $1 million to start a business. And then I'm going to take 50% of that business and act like that the church is your partner. I'm going to take 50% of it for myself, and I'm going to donate the whole 50% over to the church. And now we got a partnership. And guess what? I hire attorneys. I hire CPAs. I treat it like a business. I'll fire them if they don't do right. We're in partnership, but I just happen to represent the church. And so for me, like that was the change and transition for me. To see like that, we're stewards. And we have a gift. Like you have a gift, like ability to create wealth is like a gift. It's not like something that's.
Well, that's the other thing too. The other piece of that is education, right? I have so much up here. So many mistakes, so much knowledge, so much things that's going right, going wrong. And that's another thing I love doing. I love sharing that educational piece and helping others, helping them learn from my mistakes and do it. I mean, I get people all the time, man. I get people, guys that they're always asking me, and girls, they're like, hey, man, how do you buy the businesses? How can I invest in real estate? How can I buy real estate, no money down, all that stuff.
Subject to and
all that stuff. I mean, some of that stuff is good, and some of it's not. So, but that's the thing. Over time, you learn. You learn that what the good stuff is and what's not, and what you should invest in and what you shouldn't, and how you should invest and when you should invest. There's certain times, like my daughter the other day. I mean, just a prime example. She's 15, and she was asking me the other day, Dad, I want to invest in stocks with you. And I was like, well, I don't invest in stocks. That's just not my thing. And she's like, well, why? And I told her why. I was like, we buy companies, so we actually own the companies instead of us owning small pieces of the companies. We own the company itself.
Yeah.
And so it kind of light bulb went off, and but she wants to start investing, and so it's like, that's you have to kind of guide them along to the different troughs. And this trough it's a different trough than what she's accustomed to.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying is like the thing that you have that's valuable is not your money.
Right.
It's your experience.
Yes.
And taking that experience, because you don't go into a national event and tell people, I'm Josh Wilson and I'm wealthy. Right. I'm great. Let me tell you how wealthy I am. I'm so wealthy that I could give this money. I'm so wealthy. Like, nobody cares to hear you.
No.
But they want to hear your life experiences.
100%.
And they want to hear like what actually.
They want to hear your trials and tribulations.
Yeah, how did you get past this?
Yes.
How did you navigate through it? So I think, man, that's tremendous for like sharing your stories. Are tremendous, blessing to us. Like to hear it.
Yeah, and also too, for people that maybe listen to this and maybe they're down on their luck right now, and like maybe things aren't working out the way they wanted them to work out. Just know that. I've been there, and time usually will cure all things, especially in real estate deals. Well, I take it back. In M&A deals.
I don't know, man. A gunshot to the stomach, time don't heal the wound.
Well, I agree, but for me, like time cured like us. Like we needed more time to grow the company. So like if we were up against a gun and like we only had like a year or two to grow the company, we probably wouldn't have met that mark. But given us 5 years, we had some more runway. It allowed us to grow and do the things without the pressure on us. So, if you're under the gun, just understand, keep at it, keep working. Just give yourself a little more time, maybe give yourself a little bit more grace. But also don't give up. The best deals I've ever had, the best relationships that I've ever had, all because of time and not giving them, throwing in the towel too early.
Yeah. So how do you, just on a practical note, you mind if we continue on a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to drag you on. But how do you raise the capital? I know it's easier once you've got 30 businesses or whatever. Like like you just get on the phone with all your network and raise capital. But how do you suggest that like a guy just getting into it raises the capital for that investment to buy the business?
Relationships is huge. I went to friends and family first. Right. That's how I got started. And that's usually typically how every entrepreneur gets started, friends and family. And then eventually when you have a proven concept, so you do it yourself, it works, then you go to friends and family, they invest with you, it works again, and then you start soliciting outside.
But I'm saying I'm just trying to be practical. Like, okay, I got somebody that wants to buy, wants me to buy their business. They want me to put up $200,000 to buy it. Do I just call my friends and say, hey man, I got a business, you ought to buy it with me? Or do I actually lay out a pro forma, put together perspectives? You got to treat my friends and family like I would an investor?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
So,
right.
But the key
because
thing
the problem is they'll invest just because they think you're cool.
Correct. Well, you got to establish that like, know, and trust, like that's the first thing. They got to like you, they got to know you, and they got to trust you.
Right.
And I know that's well known out there, but it's so true. If you can establish that relationship, sometimes they don't even want to see a pro forma. They trust you.
Right.
So, and you have to be a steward of their money, that you're not going to basically not give them their principal back.
Right.
And so that's what we do. So we make sure that I have a lot of people that invest with me that sometimes they don't even care about the P&Ls. They're like, Josh, you're in it, I want to be involved.
But do you give them like the assurance that I feel like that what I had to do is like say, look, I guarantee you could lose every penny of this.
100%.
Or I guarantee you we could win.
100%.
But I think that what happens is like they don't hear that.
Yeah, so we have an SEC attorney that does our fund and stuff and whatnot, and handles all of our documents for all of our investments. So you got to be a credit investor and on all those things. So we're not just like throwing people together and throwing people in deals. Like there's a process. We have P&Ls, we have financials that they look at. If we're doing our fund, we got our PPM, which is outlines. Basically, it says every 3 lines that this is a risk and you could lose all your money.
So do you do basically like, have you created your own biz gym type? I mean, I'm saying like your own, what was the website you said your own biz? What?
Biz buy sell.
Biz buy sell.
No, I mean, because we hold all the companies. So we're not a broker. We buy companies and hold them in our portfolio. So,
okay. I was just thinking like, how do you get the people to understand like what you have? Like it's just relationships.
Yeah, it's relationships and social media. I mean, I'm huge on social media, so I'm constantly posting on social media. I'm constantly sharing my wins. I share my losses. I'm a real person.
I think that's true.
We do.
Like,
oh, absolutely, it's so true.
Yeah, the whole thing about like sharing your losses, man, is like
there's a lot of Lamborghinis out there that people don't own that they're posting as if it's theirs,
Right.
And they don't own them. Or there's a lot of people out there that are taking pictures in front of jets that they don't own, that they're leasing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fake. There's a lot of
they're
fake
AI
stuff.
jets. I mean,
Yeah, right. Exactly. Now you have to worry about that.
Like,
you know?
wait a second.
Yeah.
Is that your tiger? I don't know.
Exactly. Yes. So there's a lot of that out there, So now you combat that,
Yeah.
So what we do is we essentially make sure that we're establishing that relationship, but we're showing people that, hey, this is what we do. We buy companies, we invest in them, we scale them, we make money, and we've also lost money. So your money is at risk.
Ever had to go to a friend or family and say, "Hey, we lost all your money"?
I've never lost a dime of anyone's money.
Yeah,
Knock on
wood, man. That's
knock on wood.
That's tremendous.
And look.
So even when you took the loss of $1 million,
when I took that,
it was your million.
I ate it.
Okay, you ate it.
It was all my investors' million. But I had to take my money and sell my real estate to pay that $1 million back.
See, I think that's a key that you don't even realize because you're in it.
Yep.
Like you don't realize that. Like that's why people say, "Hey, if you're in it, I'm in it."
Yep.
Is because you didn't see it as an
option.
option.
They didn't lose.
But you didn't see it as an option just
Right.
to say, "Hey."
I didn't. I didn't see it as an option at all.
Yeah.
I told my wife at the time. I said, "We got to sell our house. We'll sell our house." I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm not losing their money."
So I think
Absolutely.
that's like a pivotal thing that I think people don't understand. It's like, hey, if you are okay losing OPM,
Yep.
then
you have a problem.
You have a problem,
Yeah.
and people
we had a deal.
recognize
We had a med spa deal just recently. Bought it a couple years ago. It didn't go as planned as the projections that we wanted. And again, these things happen, right? When you're buying as many companies as we're buying, you're going to have home runs, you're going to have base hits, and you're going to have strikeouts. It's just part of the game.
Yeah.
And so we had a deal in Orlando, med spa deal. We still own it till this day, but we're struggling. But I made sure that I was paying back all my investors, and I worked out a deal with every single investor and started them on an amortization schedule to pay them back with interest, and so that we could start paying them back. So we started doing that, and that just shows you that's our commitment to making sure that they don't lose a dime and they're still earning interest on their money.
But transparency and having and actually sharing the hard stuff. Like I think that's where it's so hard because we want to just share the glitz and glam.
Yep.
And going to the investor and saying, hey, look, it's losing money.
Yeah.
I'm willing to back it, but I'm letting you know.
Right. When that's what we did.
We're struggling.
We would say, we were struggling. And thank goodness we're kind of turning it around a little bit. So now we're able to meet that because we have a monthly note essentially that we're paying our investors out every month. So we pay them every month now. We've been doing this now for almost a couple months, 4 or 5 months. And so we send them their money every single month, and they don't. I mean, they know we're losing. They know we were losing money, but at the same time, we started turning it around. So now we're not losing as much, and we're kind of turning a profit, being able to pay them back. So, but they're okay now because they're getting their money back. And they're making interest. They're not like it's not like we just said, hey guys, sorry it didn't work out. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Hopefully see you on the next one. Like I could never do that. Like there's no way. So for me, I'm always thinking of a way to protect the principal of my investors because I want them to be clients with me for life.
Yeah. My son just told me a story the other day was. It's interesting as your kid. How old are your kids?
15 and 18.
Okay. So I've got like my youngest is 23, and then I've got kids that are 30. One of my sons has just turned 30.
Okay.
It's really cool when you get to the point where they become peers.
Yeah.
And so like I know it's hard to imagine like at this, but
I know 18. I feel like today I'm yelling at my son about showing up to work on time.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I can tell you, like I had my kids. I remember I had them passing out flyers for one of my businesses, and I was paying them like by the flyer. Like I'd worked out a deal. Hey, it's 2 cents a flyer, and they left and they were gone the whole day, and I got a call the next morning. From a guy in the neighborhood, and he was livid. And I was like, dude, what happened? Did they park in your grass or what?
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I got 4,000 freaking brochures in my mailbox.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Those punks got paid for the 4,000 brochures and jumped them all.
Man.
So I feel your pain. Like I can identify with like raising them is tough. Yeah. But like now we're at the level where he's starting to be like somebody that I respect in business, and I actually look to him, and there's areas that I can say that he's accelerated past me, and I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
But I remember he was telling me the story, and he was challenging me over some hard decisions that I'd called him about some hard stuff that I was going to have to deal with. And I was like, hey, how would you deal with this? Like, what would
Right.
you do? And he was telling me like, well, you got to deal with the hard stuff, Dad. You know, you don't want to, but like, you got to have that hard conversation and do this and do that. And so I was like, okay, like that sounds good, man. But
sometimes you just got to lean into it.
Yeah. But he was telling me a story. He said, when I was like, and I don't want to steal his thunder because he's writing a book about it right now. But he said, when I was like 18 or 19, he had his first child when he was like 17.
Okay.
Got some girl, got somebody pregnant.
Yeah.
And he did the right thing. He got married, and but he's 17. He ended up getting a divorce.
Yeah.
He didn't know what he was doing.
Yep.
But so he's like 19, and he's like one of those old souls. Like at 19, he talked to you like he was a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
And so he was 19, and he said he was at a prayer meeting with me and my wife, and he reminded me, I didn't remember this. He said some lady came to me and said, "Are your parents here?" And he said, "I brought them to you," and they said something like, "Hey, your son's going to do great things, but he has to deal with some hard things that he's not wanting to deal with." And it was sort of like a prophetic, kind of moment. And I don't remember it at all. But he said, "Dad, I left there and I didn't tell you guys, but I had gotten another girl pregnant, and I had just totally like berated her and told her she was a liar and it wasn't my kid and get away from me." And
oh my goodness!
And because he's 18, 19,
No.
And it happened when he was like 15 or 16. So like obviously he understood the whole concept of raising kids or having kids. But so at 15 he did this, and he didn't tell us about it. We didn't know about it.
Right.
And he went on Facebook and told everybody how horrible she was and she was a liar and all this bad stuff. At 15, 16 years old. And so he said, "Dad, I knew I was supposed to go talk to her and tell her that I was sorry and that I wanted to be involved in that girl's life." It was his daughter. And he said, "Man, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to have that hard conversation. I didn't want to go talk to her." And he said, she gave me the address to go to, and it was in a Section 8 housing apartment complex. And he said, I thought to myself, well, she used to be in drugs, and maybe she's got a drug dealer friend there, and they're going to beat the soap out of me. And this is like, because this is 3-4 years later, And so he's like, okay, I'm just going to go. And he said he drove there, and he sat in the parking lot. And I kid you not, he said, I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I'm fighting like whether I should go in and knock on the door or not because I'm just struggling. And he said a Suburban pulls up 2 spaces over from me. 4 guys get out with ski masks. And he said, I thought to myself, this is it. I'm going to die right here in this parking lot. I've got a kid at home because he had a son. And he said, I got a kid at home, and I'm going to die right here trying to do the right thing. And he said, I started to throw it in reverse and leave. And he said, I just sat there and he said, you know what? Even if they beat the soap out of me, I'm going to get up out of the beating, and I'm going to walk in there and look her in the eye and tell her I'm sorry. And I'm telling you what, the integrity of that kid.
Wow.
I was thinking about it now.
So
like
what
it just
happened?
happened 2 days ago when he was telling me about it.
What happened with the ski mask?
He said that when he put the thing back in the park, he said the door opened, his passenger door, and he thought it was them. He thought they were dragging him out, and it was the girl. And it turns out those guys were going to rob somebody or something. It had nothing to do with him.
Wow.
And the moral of the story was he's now in his daughter's life. Wow. He actually had to go have a conversation with the grandparents that are raising the daughter.
Sure.
They told him how much a scumbag he was, and he had to sit there for an hour and be berated.
Just get berated,
you're no good, you're trash. And he had to get a paternity test to prove it because they're like, you're not his dad, you don't really know. And so like he fought for it, and dude, he now is involved in her life. She goes with us on trips. Is like she's a part of his life. He goes follow her dad and daughter.
That is beautiful.
And I'm just saying, it's like dealing with the hard stuff is sometimes hard.
Yeah.
And we have to push through it because it's a smoke screen.
Sometimes you got to lean into it, and sometimes too, it also, I think, you build it up in your head.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a smoke screen.
Yeah.
Like you build it up so high that you think that that everything's going to come to crashing down around you. But just deal with the hard stuff. Have those hard conversations. If you get somebody that's investing in it and you don't have the money to pay them back, sit down and have hard conversation. Conversations like, hey, I don't have it now, but I think I'm going to be okay.
I'll figure it out.
We're going to figure it out. And just being able to stand up and
100%
be able to do that. I think like that's something to embrace, man.
Absolutely,
I thank you so much for coming.
Man,
to
this
the
was
show.
great. So this is a great chat, and I love talking to you, man. I love talking shop. So.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to be coming on. This show is actually going to air, and you will have already come. So I'm not plugging the Christian Businessmen's Luncheon, but you come into our luncheon to actually speak to our men at Christian Businessmen's Luncheon to talk to them, and I appreciate that, man. That's tremendous, and just encouragement. What would be one thing takeaway that you would say to somebody that's like thinking about buying a business, don't know if it's or thinking about selling their business? Like what's a good, like either one of those guys? Like
I think a lot of people they get scared. Fear drives a lot of the emotions of wanting to buy a business or sell a business, and all the what ifs. And I think you need to put that to the side a little bit and just operate with data. Stop operating with emotions. Fear is an emotion-based thing, and so start looking at the data, look at the financials, look at the company, look at the people, and sometimes you just got to take a risk. Calculate a risk are good, but sometimes you just got to take a risk, and you only live once, so don't go bet everything, your whole family on the put it all on black.
On black,
But you have to step out a little
Calculate
bit.
a risk.
You got to step out of your comfort zone a little bit. A lot of people I think are just not really living life because they're just in that little security bubble.
Well, so we're in this generation right now. I want to say this like that. We're in a paradigm shift of business owners.
Yeah,
there's a shift of wealth that's coming, and I personally, I run a business networking group, and I got 2,300 small businesses in the network, and we have.
I need to talk to those people.
Yeah. But I get 2,300 small businesses in my network, and I can tell you that like there's people that have really good businesses that people would buy that they just turn the key off.
Right.
Because they lose hope.
Correct. They're like, you know what? I've been running. I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm just gonna slowly scale it down.
Yeah.
And it's like you could actually exit the business and sell it to somebody like me who is going to continue on that legacy and do something with it. You know? So
I think like that's the key that I would say is the takeaway is like, man, just for those guys that are struggling and they're thinking about just shutting off their business.
There's other options.
What would be the option?
Yeah, there's other options, meaning that you can do a consult for equity. So I can come in and consult, help grow your business.
Should they list it on Biz Buy Sell?
I wouldn't list it because I'm not a broker. But
no, I'm saying should they list it?
They can list it on Biz Buy Sell. But there's all kinds of different things they can do. They can go bring a guy in, like I said, like me. I can buy their business. We can do a consulting for equity agreement where I come in and help you grow the business. And if I don't hit benchmarks, then if I hit the benchmarks, then you give me pieces of equity, and you don't care because at that point you're not really working it hard for the business. I'm turning it around, I'm running it, I'm doing all those things. You can come to us. We have access to lenders and banks. And
how do they find you? Like, what's the best way?
At the Real Josh Wilson Instagram, easiest way to find me.
At the Real Josh Wilson Instagram, okay.
At the Real Josh Wilson on Instagram, or you can go to jwenterprise.co.
Okay,
and that's our website.
I think that's a great takeaway, man. I'd like to close with it.
There's plenty of options if you're a struggling business owner. Plenty of options, and if you have a great business, I would love to talk to you.
Yeah, either way. I mean, it's not the
end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. You'll be able to make it through this, and you're better off leaving with something in your pocket for all those years of hard work
than walking out with nothing in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, you all those 18-hour days and all the stuff you've overcome. Get something for it.
Exactly, 100%.
And exit with.
You never know
integrity.
because, like, example, right? There may be a company, like, let's say, for instance, I own a company, and maybe I'm a competitor. And you're like, I'm struggling. Well, maybe I'd like to buy you out because you have a customer list that maybe I want. You have vans or vehicles that I want. So it's not so much just as the business itself. Sometimes you may have assets that's maybe worth it to someone else. That you have, like a customer list or like email list, or there's a variety of. You own a domain, like let's say you own like the New Orleans. medicalcenter.com, or what I mean? Like, and it's a high profitable domain. It's an asset, So there's things that you may have that may be beneficial to someone else. Not just so much your business as a whole.
I think that's great advice, man.
And I don't know who owns New Orleans medicalcenter.com. I just threw that one.
No, but that's great advice because I can tell you I've just turned the key off on businesses myself, and I thought, man, this has got value. I should have just sold it, and I just didn't know a path to it. So the next time we get together, man, I'd love to explore that a little deeper. Like how do you actually prepare for the sale, and how do you actually get yourself ready for it? But,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right,
thank you.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
That's it for this episode of The Tenacious Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this journey. Are you an entrepreneur with a tenacious story? We want to hear from you. Visit our website, tenaciousentrepreneur.com, and click on the Tell My Story link. If you got something valuable from today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Keep pushing forward, and remember, the end is only the beginning. A new episode drops every Wednesday at 7:14 a.m. Until then, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and be tenacious.